Hoi there! It's wanted in 5 countries, Rainhet Sensei here. Welcome back! Anyway, no time to dilly-daddle. How to make a hands and the rest of the body in Blender. So, maybe I did things in a slightly strange order, but by the end of this video you should have a bold chibi mesh. Of course you can use these same techniques to make a regular human-sized human, and of course the feet might need a bit of work depending on your intent, but the main focus of today will be the hands. When I was little, I went to rhythmics classes. For those who don't know, that's a mix of ballet and gymnastics. Our teacher would keep saying, "Pretty hands, pretty hands." I never really knew what that meant, but I just copied the other students. Well, today I have the term for it. It is called Balanchine hands. Balanchine is a famous ballet teacher who thought that hand presentation was very important, and well, I completely agree. There's nothing more disappointing than seeing a beautiful model, then as your eyes trail down their arms, you eventually get to the hands, which look way more like pancake spaghetti. Formless, thin, noodle-like fingers, and a karate chop default pose. Honestly, kind of bad. When the hands can't be animated, they will rest in the default pose, and what that will look like is completely dependent on you. Think about how stiff AI Angel looked before she could animate her hands. In my opinion, I say make those hands pretty and then relax them a bit. It's going to be way easier on the eyes and doesn't affect posing. Hello noobs, I kind of left you on red a little bit with those cliffhangers at the end of those videos. Well, it's time to finish up the model now. Starting with my favourite shape again, guess what we're going to make? A hand. So we'll add mesh cube. I feel like I haven't done this in years. I'm just scaling this down at this point. S to scale, remember. Now if we go into this mode up here, viewport shading, we can take a look at the body mesh. We can also, let's click optimal display again and we'll see how many faces we have to work with before we add the subdivision. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. As you can see, 3 on that side, 3 on this side. So whatever the hand is, it'll have to finish off with 6 faces. G, Y. Edit mode, we're gonna S scale that in the Z direction. Going to delete this face. X delete faces. And start the hand from here. Everything will be super flat for now. So, let's grab this face and scale in the Y. I want you to keep looking at your hand when I'm explaining these things to you. Scale that in the Y direction. Just a little bit, just because the bottom of the hand is a bit fatty. We'll Control R and put a split down the middle. Control R again, put a split over here. This will be where the fingers split off. If you hold your hand out and like fan your fingers out, you'll see between the fingers there's a gap. It doesn't just point. It's not super sharp and pointy. There's a gap space, and we want to include that in the model as well. So we'll Alt click on this line so we can select it. Alt click. Oh, I'm Alt right clicking. G, double tapping G so we can slide it along, and we're going to put it about here. We want to do the fingers now. Control R. We're going to do 4 this time. So 3 slits to make 1, 2. That was not 3 slits. Okay, let's try again. Control R and roll with the scroll wheel. 2, 3 slits to make 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers. We also want to split these apart as well. So we'll select these lines just with shift and right clicking. Alt. Remember to keep your mouse on the right side when you do this. Alt V, and it's going to pull it across. We're going to hit the Y button to snap it in the Y axis. As we do, we're going to grab these, look from the top view, which is Z. We're going to kind of try to get this somewhat symmetrical, so G, Y, and pull it down about there. Now you have all the space. Now I don't know about you, but the skin here on my hand is bigger at the bottom than it is at the top as far as the angles go. So I'm going to select this and pull it back a bit in the X direction so it now slopes. Now there's also a fatty part of the hand. If we do numpad 1, there's a fatty part at the bottom. So let me first scale this in the Z direction, flatten it out a bit more. And let's grab this bottom lines. If you remember, I'm just lassoing things that I want to select with my left click. I've got the bottom lines. We're going to numpad 1 bring them up, so G, Z, and now we have this bit of fat right here. Just to speed things up, we can immediately pull out these fingers. So E to extrude in the X direction and leave them there. There'll be a gap between all of the fingers, which is what you want. That's step 1. Step 2, where's the thumb? We want it to come out of this side, but instead of doing what I did last time, we're going to extrude it from here. But first, we'll add another loop here, Control R, bring it right down almost to the bottom. Alt select that, scale it in a little bit, and we'll select this face. Going to extrude. It should come out at the angle, but if it hasn't, just make sure to bring it down with G and Z. I do also want a gap between the thumb and the hand, so we're going to actually drag this in this direction and this in the X direction, so GX. I'm going to start to create a thumb shape. Now I can grab this face too and extrude. Might be worth scaling this down a little bit. GZ. Bring this whole thing down a bit more. R, GZ. We just want the thumb to be facing somewhat down. For now, this will do. There's some fat on the thumb that we want to show in this low poly version of the model, so we'll select these. I also don't forget to save. We'll inset them with I, initially just a little bit and then scale it, just because it's a bit of a weird shape. About that will probably do for now. GZ. Now this part. Let's select these, click here, click here, click here. At last. Now this scenario, we will dissolve this, X dissolve vertice, and we want this face to just go straight into that face. So. We'll click these two in that order, this one, and then shift click that one, at last. We'll drag these over so the shape isn't too intense. Sised. Can bring these, slide them across here, slide these across. This one too. We're really just trying to replicate that fatty area of the thumb. Sised. This can go up too. Now we have this face that we would very much like to reduce to 6. And how are we going to do that? Well, most obvious thing would be adding 2 faces here. So this area here, F to make a face, and this area here, this area here, F to make a face. Making a face here and making a face here leaves us with 6 edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, these 2, 4, 5, 6. I do want to reduce it more though, so let's get rid of some of these. At last. At last. At last. At last. Would be a bit more serious. GE. Should be able to slide these over and backwards too, so in the X direction. We have the thumb shape, and gladly also curving underneath the thumb, which is also nice to have. We can drag this over and back, so GX. We have this hand shape, this can go up. There are also some other things we can do if you don't want this to stick out so much, because it is going to be a bit obvious. We can also just do this. Make this shape. X dissolve edges. So now this goes into the palm like that. And the same here. Oh. This, X dissolve edges. Right, now not too terrible. We basically just move that curve across so it's not just in one place. And 2 birds, 1 stone. Now we can have this bit of fat in the hand as well. GY. Sised. Well, this is a very, very low poly version of the hand. We haven't even got into the fingers and how they bend. We can start by going to object mode, saving, because saving is good, and adding a subdivision modifier. Not too bad as far as hands go. Right, now if we look at the reference image, be the ref front, you can compare your little cube hand to the actual hand, and I would scale it up so it more resembles that. Can rotate, scale, rotate, check the length, that's about right. And I would also suggest getting some more references of hands. This is okay, but the more the merrier. We'll just put this in and scale that down. And also, this is the relaxed pose I'm talking about in the video. The thumb bends down, the fingers curve slightly. This is what your hand naturally wants to do, curve slightly. You have to actually put effort in to flatten it out like a pancake. This is a nice pose for your model. GY. Gonna also put a ref here. I could have just duplicated it, but fine. R90. Let's see what we can do about this hand. Edit mode. Gonna put this on cage and turn off optimal display. Actually use this as well since it's easier to look at. It's easier on the eyes. So this wrist definitely has to be bigger. We'll scale this in the Y direction first. Put this like this. Edit mode. Going to try to have it match the model a bit. This needs to curve less dramatically, so I'm going to actually turn on proportional editing. So this isn't such dramatic curve. And this would be a bit more on the pointy side, so we'll grab this. GY, GY. Try to make this a bit more aggressive of a shape. You'll also see from the graph that the thumb ends around where the fingers bend. We're also going to bring these up a bit. GX. Scale in the Y direction. GY. Let's scale these individually, so we'll just click, what is this called? Transform pivot point, and click individual origins, so they scale individually. GY. I have them pointing in a slight angle, so not completely 100% out. Now if you look at your own hands, all the fingers are different lengths, so I tried to replicate that as best as you could. We'll put this back to median and turn off proportional editing for now. So for me, my pinky finger looks like it's a tiny bit shorter than the palm length, so this area here. The other one is about this length. This one is a tiny bit longer. And this one is a tiny bit shorter than this one. Scaling these so they don't look so pointy. Also, another reason why I put the thumb out at this angle is so we could add a loop down the center here and it go all the way around the handle. It's a bit more obvious from the top view. See how the loop goes all the way around in a hand shape? Very, very useful. Very useful for very useful for UV unwrapping. Also gives the hand a bit more of a rounder shape. Let me control I. I wonder if Alt Scale is worth it. Alt Scale kind of is worth it, so Alt S to Alt Scale. This kind of scales it considering everything around it and tries not to... Like, on example for a pencil, it'll make the pencil thinner instead of making the pencil smaller. I don't really know how to explain it. And even if you want, you can trace this reference if you want. There's nothing bad about that. Now these fingers, so I'm going to bring them down a little bit. And also witness that this one looks horrendous. Numpad 1, scale Z. Last time I did get you to work on these fingers individually and then reattach copies of them, which you could do if you wanted to, but I don't think it's that necessary at the moment. Edit mode. Right. Going to put 3 bends in this finger, 2 bends in this finger, 2 bends, 2 bends. Still trying to make sure it's not too oddly shaped. And also, do keep looking at your fingers for reference too. It's not super straightforward to have a good hand reference for 3D models, but your hand is a great reference. It's a great time to see where your fingers are warped. This middle one looks like the best one, and this one not so much. Could definitely pull these out in the Y direction, so GY. Right now it's just a lot of refining that needs to be done. Actually, let me select this from the top view and let's hide it for a moment so we can just see these. GY. We'll just add it in the Y direction. Just encourage them to be on top of each other. Might I also add, you do have a hand right now, it's just not refined. Alright, let's Alt unhide. The fingers look a bit more refined. We can turn back on proportional editing again, GY. You can see this finger has a very slight curve to it. GY. It's fine to split these fingers to spread them out at a wider angle and it will work fine, but I've noticed that they pose a lot better, especially in Vrchat, if they're somewhat straight outwards. I'm also going to bend this slightly. This thumb is going to be something else. These fingers do look a lot better. I would also be wary of the thickness of them. So if you look at your finger from the side, your finger on your own hand, they look thinner at the tip and a bit thicker at the base by a little bit. The tip also rounds out at the bottom and then goes flat point at the top. So we'll try to replicate that a bit. Right now these are kind of sausagey. This is the spaghetti thing that I'm talking about. Actually, let's hide this for a moment. H to hide. These are not exactly on the perfect level. G Z, let me turn proportional editing off. G Z. G Z. These are about the same-ish. These are somewhat on the same level. G, Z. We just kind of want to create a straight line across. Same with these. And the bottoms as well. If I can select it properly. GZ. I'm going to bring these up a bit more. GZ, GZ. And they are different shapes too. Scale Y. Scale these down a little bit too. The little finger would be the smallest. And try to bring these to a line as well. So we turn that off. GZ. GZ. The bottom part. They should be a bit better in regards to shape. Scale these with S. We still want to create the tapering shape. We don't quite have yet. So we will select these edges. We're going to bring them back. Also, great time to turn on individual origins. GY. Oops, GX, I mean. So now we're creating that more tapered shape. We can turn that off for a moment. And these middle lines. GX can go back to. And these can go a bit forward. Not by too much though, since we still want to keep the roundedness of it. Also, it looks like if you look at your finger, like the point first, you'll see that it's a bit fatter on the bottom and a bit flatter on the top. So these can actually, if we select the faces, these faces, just holding shift to select them all, we can SY, scale in the Y direction, and because we have individual origins on, they'll scale individually. SY. I'm actually going to hide these these parts in between the fingers, and select these lines. Because I still want the fingers to be in a better shape, so S, Y, scale in the Y direction. Bit too much that was. And I also want to scale these in the Y direction. Just so they're fatter on the top than on the bottom. So SY. All individually. I want them to be thinner, so I'm just Alt scaling. Alt S. They should really keep this shape. And SY to Alt and Alt H to show everything that we've just hidden. Now, when you relax your hands a bit, it's a lot easier to see the knuckle shapes. So, we can actually afford to bring these out a bit. We'll select these, GX, bring them out. GY. The knuckles are a bit further up on the hand, about here. Technically add more topology to make it a bit more obvious of a shape, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to bring this up a little bit, he said. I want you to also note when you look at your hand, if it's flat in front of your face and your fingers are all pointing to you, it does kind of have a bit of a... So the middle finger seems to be the highest point, and then everything else slopes off, especially the ring and little finger. So this area here, to a certain point, so I wouldn't be selecting this or these, would be higher up. So if I select this, GZ, and bring this up a little, it'll look a bit more like what I see when it's pointing towards me. So like that, and this would be going down, but I would not be selecting these two, and I would not be selecting these two, and this two, in fact. GZ. And actually I would rotate it in the x-axis as well. This is a little unfortunate. R. It's more the finger that needs to be rotated than anything. GZ. RX, RX. Now this is a lot of detail for a chibi model, as far as the hands go, but do you not want to know how to make pretty hands? I do. RX. So now we have this kind of arch shape when the fingers are pointing, towards, and this I believe would need some rotating RX. RX, GZ. The hand shape is getting better already. Now I'm going to pull some of these up with proportional editing on until I'm happy with the shape. I still want this part of the hand to be the highest part up. So keeping that in mind, I'm shaping the back of the hand. I'm going to turn on this for a moment. I want to see if I can do a little bit of lining these up. Right, the thumb has a bend around here, and there's one more here, so I'm going to just add one loop here for now. And still try to focus on getting these shapes to look presentable. So this, I want it to line up better. Going to round this in that direction, and these two. So proportional editing is on. I want to look at it from head on as fast as we can and rotate. We just want the nail facing more outwards. And it does look like the mesh is getting more and more twisted. It is. But we really want to keep this line here intact because it's going to help so much with shading. Now, the similar thing with these fingers, we do want to give the thumb a fingery shape. So we're just gonna double tap G, slide this across like we did with the other fingers. This thumb situation here can go way further down. Way further down. This can go more up. Also, when I move things, I'm making sure it's in an appropriate position to do so. Making sure I'm looking at it at an angle. The thing about these joints too is I want them to be able to keep their shape for the most part when they bend. Keep a shape at least. We're going to select these, Alt V, make sure my mouse is on the right side, Alt V, when I say right I mean below it. I'm going to do the same for these. I'm going to put my mouse above this time, Alt V. I'm just, so I Alt V, and then instead of like left clicking, I just right click. Because of the shape of things, it'll just automatically separate because it's subdivided. Should be able to take a better look at the finger pose now that we have this shape. A little complicated, but it'll be fine. So the finger won't bend as much. Can select, turn off X rate and bend it a little bit, bring it down. We can bring these edges up. Oops, to give it a bit more shape. GZ. Same with this one here. GZ. But I still don't feel like this is relaxed enough, so I'm gonna go again. Jeez, that. The fingernail would be something along these lines. So I have this top face. I'm not actually going to add fingernails to this model just because it's chibi. We would press I, and left click to insert. And also Shift E and S so we can scale it to the right size. Also rotate a little bit. Now I liked insetting again, or extruding actually. Extruding would work too. So E to extrude. Give the little indent, or the big indent. GX. E again. GY. GX, I mean. Let me take off some of these items. There we go. Take off the Eye Crease. And this end here would extrude to the rest of the fingernail. But let's just extrude on that axis. These would also have to be creased to give a more appropriate shape, and these would have to be adjusted to be more nail appropriate. These edges would probably have to come up a little bit. Scaled in Y. Oh right, these will have to come off. Let's do medium point SY so it can fit in that little indent I made. Big indent, I guess. And honestly, this doesn't have to be as dramatic as it is. You don't need to have a dramatic indent for the nail. You could just extrude it directly. Let's check object mode. And object shade smooth. This is what it looks like with the indent. It looks like it's an actual nail growing out of the finger. But you could also just texture it to look that way. You don't have to. X dissolve faces. Oof. Dissolve faces. Dissolve faces. Dissolve faces. Can't do that. X dissolve faces. Okay, there we go. Back to where we were. Right, let's do the rest of the fingers. By the way, feel free to shade this as smooth. So mesh, shading, smooth. Sometimes it's just nice to see the squares when you're first starting out. Going to Alt V on this and right click. So I'm just going to select those two and Alt V. Now this has a big area to stretch. Just going to double tap G and slide it down. Let me see if it's worth GX. I want to try to get as much of this settled as possible before worrying about anything else. Because I don't want to rotate this quite yet. Though I could, because it's still got the origin point at the center, so it wouldn't be a terrible idea. Let me see if this would be more appropriate. Because it's definitely giving the shape I want, just not the position. And that's not quite it either. You know, I think I want not this. X dissolve edges. Dissolve edges? I want another loop around here. And then you should too, if you didn't get the hint. I'll scale this a little bit. This should hopefully help with the shape. Right, save. Hopefully your hand looks good. And we can file. So we can rotate this in object mode. Might need to scale it a little bit so it fits the reference. Go to this way. Want to RXX so we can rotate on this axis, which is not the x-axis. RXX. It's like the original cube's x-plane. But you know what? RXX. I don't think this needs to be dramatically rotated. I kind of like that view. There's a very detailed hand for a chibi. And this arm can, optimal display can be turned off, edit mode. Also, if you want the hands to look cuter, just make the fingers shorter. We'll do individual origins. That on GXX, so it goes on that angle. We'll try this should be a bit cuter looking with the smaller fingers. GXX. I also want to make sure the lighting is good on this, so let's go to edit mode, A mesh normals reset vectors. Okay, control E, clear, sharp, mesh, normal, average by face area. Let's do a few little things. Mark, sharp, hand shaped, mark, sharp. Yeah, this'll do for now. Let's get out of this. Let's hide the hand wraps because we don't want them anymore. Let's get some ears on this lady. We'll add another cube. Oh, actually, before we do that, let's label this as hand. Double click, and we'll add mesh cube. Scaling that. G, putting it where the ears are. Number 3, GY. Scale it in the Y direction too. Let's go to edit mode, file, save. And this is going to need a subdiv as well. Oh, let's get rid of this face. X delete faces, Control R, Control R. Try to make this match. Oh, you know what? Let's turn on cage as well. These ear shapes. You know, it also might be useful. Let's turn on this and turn off this. If you don't have that ref, you can get it on Patreon, but you don't need it. This is just because I like making things look like the reference that I put time into. You know what? Yeah, let's point this like that. With Shift E, by the way. Right, we can go back to object mode. We can rotate in the Z axis. Numpad 3, GY. Line these up. Numpad 1. Try and make this reasonable too. GX. RZ. GX. See it from this angle, and it doesn't look too half bad actually. Gonna G, Y, Y, so it goes out in that angle. G, X, X goes out in that angle. Or you could just eyeball it. Nothing wrong with eyeballing it. R, bring this out here. Right. Now this face, there's some important things that I suggest you get down. So insert, let's just right, oh wait, I left click once, turn problem edit off, scale this down, and also scale this down too, it's a bit large. Oh, another thing I like to add is this line here. This will aid with unwrapping and it looks pretty cool. Let me turn on proportional editing with that. There we go. Right, so we have this line now. Let's try to keep it on the face, so I'm going to slide these up and across, try and copy that shape. Oh. GXX, GYY, oh wait, GZZ. Hopefully that keeps it on the face. GZ. Oh, no, we can just drag these over. Now, this little bump here, I think I'm going to bring this across like this, and this across like this. This should be sticking out. We can create this kind of shape. So collecting these. It might be easier to see without this on. So let me hide this for a moment. Okay. K, knife tool, we're gonna click this, 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 and connect it here. Right. I don't think these want to cut. Which I think I know why, because of the angle. Let's see if this might help. No? Okay, you know what? Fine. That's fine. X, delete face. We'll just make a new face. F, grab this line, edge, subdivide. Where is it? Subdivide. Grab these two, F to make a face, these two, F to make a face. Right. Let's turn this back on. We have this shape. Now all I want to do is to sharpen this for a start so it stays put. And then hide everything behind. So this, I want to hide it here, this, I want to hide it here, this, I want to hide it here. So now we have the ear going inward a bit. And that's how I make the basic ear. All the other details can be painted on, but you can definitely make it way more complicated than this in terms of shape. GY. Mash, shading, smooth faces. You can definitely extrude some parts here and there. That's how I'd make ears. You can attach them to the head if you want, especially since this opening only has eight sides. It wouldn't be terrible to attach to the head. So what we can do with this, because, you know, it isn't too much to worry about, Control A, all transformations, then we can add a mirror, little mirror modifier, put it there, and now the ears are attached for the most part anyway. I think the last avatar I made, the ears weren't attached. Should I change that this time around? Let's see. If it's easy, I will. If it's not, I won't bother. Check what the mesh on this looks like. Two on that side, two on that side. Okay, let's not do one of them. Okay, so let's hide this one. If I inset these, we have 8. Ear, ear, ear. And I should be able to connect these without too much issue. Fine. Okay, this once I'll attach the ears to the head. Let's make sure the outer shape isn't too terrible. We want to stiffen these. Delete these faces. Object mode. Ears. Right, so click on the ears first, and then shift click on the head, Control J to join, edit mode, and then we'll start matching these up. Right, so this one goes to this one, M at last. This one goes to this one, M at last. This one goes to this one. Control E, mark, sharp. Is that working? Yes, for the most part. So it matches the front and side view more or less. So eyebrows, let's just duplicate this, Shift D, right click once, bring it down. Let's grab these, try to mimic that eyebrow shape. Do the fatty parts. Oof, that's really messing things up. Bring this out here. Remember to save. E to extrude. Still trying to copy that shape. It's nice to have the shape somewhat evenly spread out, the polys. Let's bring these forward till they don't hide in the head anymore. GY, that one's out. GY, that one's out. GY. E to extrude. I want to hide these faces back here, behind the eyebrow. X, delete faces. They should be smaller. And it's a decent size. Right, Control S to save. Now the eyelashes. We're going to select this area around the eyes, just not here, here. Yeah, that'll do. Shift D, right click once. So we'll just do P, separate by selection, object mode, save. Let's grab this, edit mode, Control R. We'll do this properly this time. Let's do this first. See, that's where it went. Double tap G, bring it out. Now let's hide these delete these faces. There we go. We just want to position these. You know what, let's turn on X-ray, make things a bit easier. Position these in a decent position, in a decent place, I guess. These two can be merged together with M at last. These two can be merged together with M at last. Just put it in the right place. So we can grab these, we can E to extrude, and we can get rid of that crease too. High, clear, sharp. More of a 3D shape. The back of this can get deleted too, if I can see it. There we go. Select these and the two triangles at the end. X delete faces. Right. We have this. Just going to extrude a little bit. This, the back of this, we don't delete. Shift E. We want to try to copy the shape of the eyelashes that we have in the reference. I'm going to scale this, bring this over and across. Use this too, should help. So this, and this can be sharpened. Oh dear. Shift E to make a point, and this too. Shift E. These can be extruded with E. And these can be extruded with E. You know what? E again for both of these. Whoopsie daisy. Right, let's get the back of these creased. I think it's these two and these two. And these don't need to be creased. So let's take that off. Okay. And pad 1. Remember to save. These can be merged M at center, so can these. Oh, actually, let's not do that. Let's do these front ones M at center, and the back ones M at center. Right. So we have this here, this here, this here, here. Just make sure this inner shape is smaller than the outside. Oh, this can be sharpened too. I don't think this needs to be sharpened, so let's take that off. This can go here, these can go here. These can be smaller on the inside. So can this be. And this. This is a very unfortunate shape. I would like to hope I can make it look better. I wonder if it would look better if it just didn't look like this. Okay, let's try to bring this forward in the Y direction only for now. I'm also going to sharpen this edge. And these ones too. Control E, mark sharp. These ones as well, because why not? Mark sharp. Should be pretty distinct between the back and front. I do still want to add some extra details. Shift D, Alt S. Oh dear. Let me try to make this not terrible. F. Scale this. Okay. Right. We have that. X dissolve edges. I want this one as well. Dissolve edges. X. Maybe these are worth merging. X dissolve edges. X dissolve vertices. Is that what we want? Sometimes you do just have to feel things out. UI. I just want enough space to hide these shapes inside the eyelashes. I don't really want them sticking out. Alt H. And this really needed some space. GY. We need to check the direction of everything because we've done so much flipping left and right. There's bound to be something that's not the right orientation. So we just go to viewport overlays right here, and then face orientation. We'll see that this one here, didn't I do more than that? Didn't I do these as well? Well, they're gone now. We'll do mesh, normals, flip. There we go. Now it's blue. Blue means the outside, red means the inside. Still need to do the rest of these shapes. Pad 1 is really being stingy today. I could have sworn, you know, they're inside, aren't they? Of course they're inside. GY. There we go. GY. We do need a little line here for the eye, so let me teach you a little trick. For the eye crease, I mean. Since there's some shading around here as well, we'll do two birds, one stone. Make sure everything is deselected. Have this on control and click. 2, 3, 4. These together. Oh wait. Let's extrude first and then merge these together. We'll select those, make a face. GY. There we go. We just want to outline the line and the shadow. E, E, E. GY. Should be good. Mash shading, smooth faces. Oh, and the bottom lashes, can't forget those. We want teeth, so add mash cube. We want this 0, 0, 0. Let's just scale it down manually. She said. We want this to about the same size of the mouth. Number 3, GY. We're going to make the teeth and tongue in front of the face. Edit mode, Control R. We're gonna immediately put the mirror on. Delete vertices, add a mirror modifier. Shift D. Let's put that Z for now. Oh, this one might be better actually. Right, so teeth be here. Scale in the Z direction. You can delete those. GY. Let's try this. Let's try not to. L. Have this in the way. Scale in the Z direction. Z. Control R. Control R. Do this again. Turn on X-ray. Let's do this for now. Grab that, making this into a tongue shape. So we have this. This. Oh no, okay. Just be careful, because these are all lined up still. 3, we want to delete that face, those faces, I guess. This we want to bring up. GZ. These two along the similar line. GZ. This we want to rotate that way. Rotate this that way. This middle part we want to bring down. These. Actually, let's just double tap G for now. Set. Let's rotate these two. Now for the teeth, I'm gonna bring this out here. Let's put that there, drag that out. We want to create a round shape. L, E to extrude. This GX. Oh, clipping's not on. Let's do this again with clipping. E to extrude. Control deselect this, GY. just rotating these to be the right direction. Okay, let's add the subdiv. You can see what we're working with. We want to delete these faces, delete faces, we want to delete these faces. I don't want to see texture, but a bit of shape to the teeth. So we're gonna scale it down a little bit. Oh, these aren't kissing in the center. Oh dear. That's better. Mesh, shading, smooth faces. Thank you. These aren't super thick teeth, which I want them to be. Scale. Let's just take this off. Scale that. Just see what this looks like. G X or H. T X. Object mode. We're going to just put this in the mouth. Let's take off this GY. And we don't want it to clip. And I also think it might be a little too big. So we'll just scale that down a little bit. We want it to be about here as far as how forward it is, but maybe her mouth sticks out a little too much. Hopefully I didn't make that too small. Edit mode. Oh gee, sad. Oh, actually, another thing that helps is just bring these back in the Y direction. They have a little bit of a tilt. GY. Bring these forward a bit. This doesn't have to be brought back as extremely. But I'm still thinking of bringing the mouth, well, the head mesh forward, since the bottom is sticking out a little bit. GY. This should hopefully be enough. My goodness, this video is now 3 hours long. I wonder how on earth I'll edit this down. We have this, shift click on this, control J, edit mode, right. It's going to actually just snap these to the hands, last. Last. The bottom layers too. Last. Last. And the main problem is these don't add up. For now, let's just do this. Last. And last. Right. So now there's 2 triangles there. I can add a loop here to fix the triangle problem, or a loop here to fix the triangle problem, or you could just leave it be. I don't think 2 triangles is that awful. I mean, we can have a look at it in this mode. The subdivision does take care of it. And remember, you don't have to subdivide this. This will be functional on its own. Maybe some parts will need a bit of extra attention, but it will work. Like, for example, you might have to add a few more loops to the fingers. Because this is... the shapes on here are functional without a subdivision modifier. This might look a little weird when it blends, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine. If you want to see more art and game shenanigans, follow me on twitch.tv/Rainhet. Maybe you'll be lucky and witness a sacrifice or two. You can also follow updates on Twitter and join the Gremlins over on Discord. Remember to like, subscribe, and tell your mom that you love her, because if you don't, I will. Thanks for watching. This series is brought to you by my Patreons, with special thanks to My Grey Clouds and Grey Skies, Eohiho, Pixel Pagos, Soat, and Spud the Cat. See you in the next class. Farewell!